Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew and Jerry Save the World. I'm Andrew Langer,
Jerry Rogers.
and this is episode 89. Andrew and Jerry Save Transition. No, not that kind of transition. So glad I could join you. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We're going to talk about healthcare today. We think we're going to be able to squeeze in a pre-Thanksgiving episode before Thanksgiving, obviously. So we'll do our what Andrew and Jerry are thankful for next week. But there's so much going on in the world that we felt we ought to sit down and do another show this week because the landscape is changing. We've gone through our defense of Matt Gaetz, and Jerry and I had this discussion yesterday about Matt Gaetz dropping out and what that means. And well, I mean, Jerry, let's circle back on our conversation that we had yesterday afternoon before Donald Trump nominated Pam Bondi. You sized up, and I agree with you in your sizing up of the situation with Gaetz. Your immediate reaction to Gaetz stepping away or being told to step away.
Well, look, I was surprised when Donald Trump picked him for Attorney General.
Yeah.
However, after a day or so thinking about it, it made sense to me. He is a loyalist, he's a true MAGA believer, and he would go and he would hold accountable all those at DOJ. All those at DOJ who have been engaged in the weaponization of government and the politicizing the law. And so it made sense to me.
Right.
However, my response to him dropping out at first didn't make sense to me
Right.
until again I wrapped my head around this and I thought, well, you know what? If Matt Gaetz really is a Trump first guy and he went up to the Hill and realized that at the minimum, four Republican senators in no way would vote for him. And we
Right.
know that they're Murkowski from Alaska, it's Collins from Maine, it's Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, and the incoming freshman senator from Utah. Uh, Apparently, all are hard nose on Gaetz.
Yeah.
Well, if he's a true believer, Andrew, well, then what's he going to do? He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to distract. He understands that Trump has one term. He has 2 years of a majority in both houses. And so if he really believes, if Matt Gaetz really believes in what he says he believes in, it makes perfect sense that he called the president elect and said, there's too much chaos, controversy. I'm going to back away.
Right.
And what confirmed this is the immediate pick of Pam Bondi, which you said to me offline. Well, it goes to show that Trump's ready and he's ready with the second picks.
And
He's ready to go forward.
and one wonders at times if these are the preferred picks that they have out there. If they can
Right.
get somebody like a Dr. Oz or a Pete Hegseth, in to DOD or to CMS or wherever, that's great. But they have all of these other folks, and it makes it much harder for the left to fight back, right? I mean, part of what is going on here is they are trying to get the left so spun up on everything, so that down the road, right, they come off as the boys who cried wolf, or can we call them boys? Yeah, sure, we can call them boys because anybody can be anything. The live people with breathing hearts who cried wolf, whatever you want to call it. I mean, let me circle back on this because as I've said after Gaetz was nominated, I said all you need to do is go and look at the colloquy, the back and forth between Gaetz and Merrick Garland on the
Yes.
Hill last June to understand why Matt Gaetz was that guy. And it's one of those things. I think you're
But
right.
that's it. Don't sell this short.
Yeah,
That's exactly why he was chosen.
right.
And again,
It's a situation
for
in
our
which
listeners,
Gaetz was.
go back and look at these hearings
I've tweeted out
where
about it.
Gates, yeah,
There's a
where
really
Gates has
great
gone
back and
after,
forth that
yeah.
happens. The issue is that Gaetz was not letting Merrick Garland weasel away out of this. And there's all of this
And
discussion.
Ray, and also the FBI director.
Right, right. That's right. But the point being that for folks who were questioning Gates's say, litigation skills. He aptly demonstrated those in sort of how he was prosecuting this issue, in the same way that we're now seeing clips of Pam Bondi. Not that anybody was really questioning Pam Bondi's credentials.
Yeah,
Uh,
interesting,
yeah,
interesting about Pam Bondi. And this is, again, did Trump nominate Gaetz in order to really push forward Pam Bondi? You got one guy, they're not going to go after the second one.
right.
I'm not sure about that because Trump doesn't do things to lose, right? I do think this, though. I think that the Gaetz Bondi, these are a 1-2 punch. In other
Right.
words, he wanted Gaetz. He knew Gaetz wouldn't care about the media. He wouldn't care about the establishment. Republicans hate him. Remember, Gaetz won't be attorney general, not because of the press, not because of accusations against him, not because of the ethics report. No, he won't be the next attorney general because Republicans
Right.
don't like him. And
And
that's why Trump liked him.
and one wonders whether then Gaetz will, because you talked about this issue of what is next, which is, there's now this open
What's
Senate
next for
in
Gaetz?
Florida. What's next for Gaetz? There's now this open Senate seat in Florida. Does they push Gaetz for that instead of Laura Trump, or does he go back into the House? But of course, then that triggers this ethics report. And I do love the fact
Well,
that
no, I was talking to a former Hill staffer who said that there was some kind of agreement, resolution that
yeah,
allowed for that ethics investigation in the last Congress,
right.
and that agreement's not in place for the next In
Yeah, but
other words,
here's
that
the thing that comes back to me.
well, the
Listen,
report,
hold on. This report is going to
the
get
report
released.
can't be released. It can't be
No,
released.
no.
It can
Okay.
be leaked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The,
All right.
the
Very
report's
good.
going to be leaked, right?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line here.
Right.
Is that it's gonna come out in the same way, right? Where it's illegal to release somebody's IRS filings.
Right. But it's going to be leaked regardless of what he does. If he
That's the
goes
thing.
and does real estate in Florida, it's going to be released.
But so I
here's
think what is most likely in all of this, Jerry, honestly, is that Gaetz winds up in the White House complex somewhere, as a special assistant, some senior White House official, doing this same kind of work and acting as some kind of a liaison between the Attorney General's office, or whatever
well,
investigations happen. And
you just made a good point. I'm not even sure if you meant to make a good point. Pam Bondi is actually a super pick.
right.
And here's why. And the left stepped in it
Yes.
because she's a more effective
100%.
adversary to the left, to the weaponization of the DOJ and the deep state. Again, Gaetz would have been like a dog with a bone, but he would have been a dog with a bone without the muscle behind him, so to speak. Pam Bondi brings with her and the experience of running massive investigations, running lawyers, having staff. My goodness, the Attorney General of the state of Florida. I mean, she is effective, and she's as
Right.
much a loyalist as Gaetz. So
Right.
the left should have just said, let's take Gaetz.
And someone said that the other day, yesterday on MSNBC, Gaetz is not, Gaetz at the very least was incompetent in their estimation. This is them
Right.
saying this. But Pam Bondi, because she has served as attorney general of
She
one of
has
the
the
largest
chops.
states in the country, she has the experience and I'm going to say testicular fortitude, because now we can say that in the brand new transition era. We're allowed to say that women have testicular fortitude. But that's exactly it. It comes down to how does this get Donald Trump what needs to get done? And as we've been talking about, the theme in all of this is that they are trying to do. Actually, let me come back to something you said, Jerry, because you said that it may not have been their intent to go down and do this. I'm wondering if they have learned, there's all of this talk about how Donald Trump, broke all of these norms when he was president of the United States. I'm not entirely certain that was true. Remember, especially early on in his administration, and I think certainly in the last year, there was the over reliance on the establishmentarian experts within
And
the
the experts,
administration.
right? That's
Right.
exactly right.
And to their detriment. And that certainly is what got us into the COVID mess in
Yep,
2020.
that's exactly right.
And so what we saw with the Biden administration is that establishmentarian norms be damned, we're going to do what we want to do.
Okay,
And F you if you're going to challenge us on this. And so,
underline that and circle it because you're 100% correct. It was the Biden administration that smashed norms,
right.
that broke the law. Again, ranging from what is seemingly innocuous, although it's billions of dollars, the student loan bailout.
100%.
But also, my goodness, his non-strategy, his approach to Ukraine.
Right.
It's interesting, as we talk, as we speak, you have the Ukrainian defense minister or whatever his title is talking about World War III is upon us. And then you have the Biden administration giving these intercontinental missiles to Ukraine.
No. Those, just be really clear. Though there's short range,
All right, whatever
penetration missiles. It's the ICBMs that are being used by Russia against Ukraine.
But my point is, these Ukraine now has weapons from the U.S. that can penetrate Russian
and permission to use them. That's the big thing.
But
give them permission to use them.
But here's the thing, right? We're told that Donald Trump is going to somehow be a problem vis-a-vis Ukraine, Russia.
Right.
But it's the Biden administration that delayed resources to Ukraine. It was the Biden administration that gave Ukraine at first weapons without components and this sort of thing. It seems to me, again, kind of breaking with American foreign policy with our past, Biden was taking his cue from Russia,
right,
in how he gave aid to Ukraine.
Well, it's
a mess.
I have been
Let's say this real quick. 1,000 days. This war is 1,000 days old.
Right. Yes.
And yet Russia is still has the upper hand. Russia economy is not in a tailspin. So what happened to these sanctions? What happened to these all the aid that we went? My point in saying this is that this isn't so much the smashing of a norm, but it's this weird reversal where really Biden has been the problem with Ukraine, Russia.
Right. And has been for a long time.
And has been for a long time. Right. And Trump could be the figure that brings peace here.
Well, not only that, but Zelensky recognized this. Last week, Zelensky comes out and says the war will end more quickly now that Donald Trump has been elected president. And immediately thereafter, this permission to lob missiles deep into Russia was given. But that's just it. I've been rereading some histories surrounding Vietnam, and the author of the book that I'm reading right now talks about the issue of diplomats and the State Department and this one view of the world, which is, if you don't want to win a war, but you're just going to prolong the conflict, that's what they're up to. Yeah. And it seems to me that we are back, and Joe Biden, who's been in power forever, right, reverting to this time when we were, in the morass of Vietnam, and not wanting to, achieve actual victory there. That's where things are, which is why Zelensky, I think, came out and said what he said. He recognizes that, someone is going to play tough with Putin in all of this. So
let me ask you a question,
please.
We're talking transition. We're talking the smashing of norms. We're talking about the irony of Biden's the problem, but yet the criticism falls on Trump vis-a-vis Ukraine and Russia. But let me ask you this. In just the last couple of days, and here we are in what? We're about a week away from Thanksgiving, so our viewers know the timetable. But in just the last couple of days, Joe Biden has walked into a rainforest, kind of lost, and looking like he's mentally out of it. And also he's putting sanctions on Israel.
Yep.
As he's giving this aid, this unprecedented aid to Ukraine.
Right.
He's also changing border policy
Right.
that's allowing illegals to come in and check in on an app. He's purposefully, I'm asking, here's my question.
Right.
Is he purposefully trying to screw things up
Right.
for the incoming Trump administration?
100%. And it gets down to remember what they were doing in 2016 after Trump won.
Yeah, dang,
Right?
I
They
wish I had a
know,
bell.
yeah, they
Ding.
can't steal back this election. They know that that's an impossibility, right? That's the whole thing. And they know that the Trump administration learned from that first transition, and is smarter now, has better people doing it, and is prepared for these things and is prepared to fight in a way that they weren't prepared to fight before. And they weren't even really prepared for the transition. You and I have remarked about this issue of
Yeah,
moving very quickly. They weren't prepared for the first transition in the same way that they are now. So
correct.
this is how they go about gelding, trying to geld this White House, is by creating this. And it gets down to, it's ironic because again, we spend all of this time and have spent all this time over the last 4 years talking about January 6th and the aftermath of January 6th, and the idea of the insurrection and the coup and all of these things. And you and I had talked about this issue of what was going on, the interference with the peaceful transition of power from 2016 into 2017. That's again what we're seeing now, the interference with the peaceful transition of power.
And let me throw this at you, but also again for our listeners, what does Trump want to do? He wants to rebuild the economy. He wants to secure the border. He wants to end the woke DEI military. He wants to de-weaponize the deep state, DOJ, FBI, the intelligence community, and he wants to produce more energy,
Right.
American energy.
Yes.
And the opposition to this is fierce. It makes me wonder, like, for instance, Joe Biden, what he did at the border, undoing these executive actions, and
Right.
it was purposeful.
Yes.
To what end, Andrew?
Well, I mean,
Why did they allow in 12 to 20 million
because
illegals?
I will tell you, because I think they've seen the writing on the wall. They believe that, they've talked about this issue of demographics being destiny, and they know that that's not actually true. But at least, it's all
Well,
about.
I think Democrats do believe it's true. I think conservatives do not believe it's
Well, no, no,
true.
no. But I think, but understand what I'm saying here, because what the issue is. They need an influx of voters,
Yeah,
right? They know that the 81 million vote number in 2020
it was
was a
bogus.
bullshit number. Pardon my French, Geraldine. But the so they need those voters because it's all about power, and it's all about maintaining their hold on power, and it's all about putting more people on the dole, right? And I know we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the issue of healthcare and the appointments over there, and the resource economics issues that are out there. This is Marxist dialectic at
Yeah,
work.
that's
And I've
right.
said this before, right? You synthesize a problem. Maybe it was even Hegelian dialectic. You synthesize the problem, you exacerbate the problem, and then you make government the solution to the problem. And right, remember our conversation with Patrick Maines, we were talking about this just the other day. We had a great, if you haven't watched our video, our interview with Patrick Maines, who was the Media Institute president
Correct.
and one of the founders of Free Speech Week, go and watch that and listen to it, because we talk about these issues. You use free speech as a way to sort of achieve these, to undermine the society and achieve the ends that
And
you
implement
want,
censorship.
and then you enact censorship so
Let
that
me
you
let,
can't do it.
let me
All
throw
right,
this
go
because
ahead,
I know we're going to talk about healthcare and other parts of the transition, but I have to mention something
please.
again. A headline today. It was such a
Oh,
bizarre.
hold on. Headline today. Just put us in. Just want to point out, Jerry and I are wearing black shirts, not for any kind of political statement we're making. I just want to be really clear about that.
I always
Go
wear
ahead.
black.
It's all right. Go
Why
ahead.
is there a thing going
Yes.
on with black shirts?
Yeah.
What
There's
is
all
it?
the whole the yeah. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into it.
All
For
right.
those of you who
You're
understand,
you're ahead of the cultural
I am.
curve than I am. I
I'm just wearing
I
a black flannel
I
shirt today,
wear
for
I
once.
wear black sweatshirts, black shirts, black
Yes.
jackets, black blazers all the time. Anyway, because I'm fat and it has a slimming effect.
See,
But
I'm
anyway,
fat too. I'm fat too,
you're not
Jerry, and
fat.
you see how it slims me now.
Listen, so
Headline.
I had to do a double take. In fact, I saw it first on X. Derek Hunter, our friend Derek Hunter, had commented on it, and I didn't believe it was true. So I actually went to MSNBC to see if it was an actual headline. And sure enough, the headline was Lincoln Riley's killer never had a chance.
Wow. Wow.
And so
Here-
I took it and I linked it
yeah,
at Real Clear
sure.
Policy because this is what the left believes.
Right. This is, well, this
They're
is, of
they're
course,
all in on the open border criminal alien. They're all in.
right. And at the same token, there is this story about the guy who, the New York subway guy who was convicted.
Daniel was he convicted. Daniel
No,
Penny.
I don't know if he was convicted, but the point is he was arrested. He was made to pay. It was what, $250,000 in bail. And then at the same token, there another story about a violent rapist who
Well,
was
again, because it's important. So Daniel Penny
yes, that was it, Daniel.
defended other New Yorkers on a subway in a time period where rapes and murders and knifings and shootings on the subway are at a 20-year high. He went after someone who was threatening. There are witnesses who said they felt their life was threatened, and Penny said, "Well, I have to do something."
Yes.
Well, Alvin Bragg, the very progressive Manhattan district attorney, the same one who has gone after Trump for the
Yeah.
bogus, everyone keeps on saying hush money trial. It wasn't hush money trial. It
Right.
was a business practices trial where Donald Trump didn't break any law or
Right.
break any or do anything that was against business practices. By the way, that case has been indefinitely suspended.
Yeah.
The sentencing has been indefinitely suspended. It should be dismissed
Yeah, but the
immediately.
problem is, Jerry, I think this is my concern is that, and I need to ask somebody about this.
Yeah.
If it's suspended indefinitely, can it be appealed?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be.
No. Oh, appealed.
Can it be appealed? And
No, it can't be appealed until he's sentenced.
see, that's the problem. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna now, and that's again the
But
chess
the
game.
thing is, but here's the thing: it's unprecedented in American jurisprudence to take such a case and leave it open for 4 years for sentencing. It's never happened before.
Right.
But again, it goes back to lawfare, and
Right.
it goes back to this point where that you were making about, well, you have this hero defending his fellow citizens who was prosecuted, and then you have Argentinian gang members. Oh, by the way, who robbed and sexually assaulted one of Alvin Bragg's staffers.
Yes.
And mocked and laughed at the camera. And again, kind of the reality of getting mugged by reality. But here's the
Yes.
thing I want to mention to you. So news out of Denver this last couple of days, the mayor of Denver saying that he's going to employ Denver police to fight ICE, to fight the feds coming into Denver to remove criminal aliens, and that and he proudly and very great hubris announced this. And as he's announcing it, news breaks of a 14-year-old girl
Wow.
brutally raped by a criminal alien
Yeah.
in Denver. In Denver.
Do you think? Let me ask you this.
Do they not care, Andrew?
No, I think it's about politics. I think it's all about power. I think it's all about the folks who want to set themselves up to be the next, the next Gavin Newsom, shall we say, or the next Kamala
Well,
Harris.
Gavin
I don't know.
Newsom, again, we talk about ripped from the headlines. Gavin Newsom today is going and visiting the 10 California counties that Trump flipped from blue to
Yes.
red.
And this is my point, is that I think we're seeing that there are two different kinds of Democrats that are out there. And it gets into the question that I have. The question is, and we answer it in a second, I don't think there is nearly the appetite for resistance that there was in 2017, right? This movement that built around. And I think you have two different kinds of Democrats, of Democrat leaders, I should say. You have Democrats who recognize that Americans don't quite have the same appetite for anti-Trump, never Trump blood sport as they did before, which is why a majority of Americans voted for him. And then you have Democrat Democrats who are level two leaders who aren't really leaders at all, but they're just interested in the trapping of politics, and they're behind the curve and they don't get this.
Let
And
me
so
ask a
they're not
question.
seeing. Yes.
Is is Westmore level one, level two?
I think
The
Westmore,
Democratic governor
I
of,
think
of
Westmore is
Maryland.
level two. I think Westmore is someone who doesn't get what is happening in the world and is going to double down on all
Yeah.
this, which, by the way, is going to make for a really interesting 2028 primary.
He,
But guess what, guys? The
what?
2028 Democratic primary has already started.
It has.
This is
Which is
why
why Gavin Newsom is in these
yes,
10 counties that Trump
yes,
flipped. Let me just say this about I agree with you about Westmore. He's
yeah,
definitely level two, but a level two person who can win the nomination for the Democrats.
right.
He has now hired consultants to map out ways in which to fight Donald Trump. Again, this is the right.
Right.
So Anthony Brown, who's the Attorney General of Maryland, is already saying he's going to take taxpayer money to go and fight Trump. You have this
We've done this
administration.
before.
You
They've
have
done this before.
you have Governor Westmore hiring consultants, outside private sector consultants, to help map out this war against Trump. And it goes to show you again. I said this before on WBAL, but 35% of Maryland voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
If you look at the state is about 7 counties and Baltimore City, right in the center of the state, that are hard blue. And then you look at the western state and the eastern part of the state, and it's hard red. And again, it tells me that, and it's not just Maryland, it's New
Right.
Jersey, it's Michigan, it's California, it's myriad states where you have 35, 40%. In New Jersey, it's about 45%. In New York, 45% of the population are not being represented by the political establishment, the
Listen,
Democrats in those states.
the best thing that could happen to the Democrats for Republicans from a Republican perspective
Yeah.
is if Martin O'Malley becomes the DNC chair. I'm hoping that happens because Lord knows they're not going to learn from their mistakes. I mean, they need at the DNC. Not that I should,
Unfortunately, he won't. And
yeah.
again, part of this transition, Trump
You
transition.
don't think Martin O'Malley is going to?
No, but
I don't know. I don't know what the numbers
and
are. So
I'll connect it. I'll connect it to what we're talking about.
yeah,
Why I don't think he'll be the next DNC chair. This transition, the Trump transition, is wonderfully diverse.
yes,
There's diversity of ideology. You have Democrats, moderates, and conservatives, but you also have people of different ethnicities, gender. It really, truly is kind of a diverse pick
yeah,
of talented individuals, but not meant to be diverse in the same way as diversity, equity,
right,
and
sure,
inclusion. It's diverse because we're picking the best people, and in America, the best people come from all walks of life.
yes,
He's doing
right,
it the right. He's doing it the right way. Here's why O'Malley will never be the DNC chair, because he's a white man.
true,
He's a heterosexual white man. That type
maybe,
of person no longer reigns in the Democratic Party. Number one, number two. It's why Josh Shapiro, who should be the nominee,
right.
will never become the nominee of the Democratic Party because they've become the anti-Semitic party. And Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, is Jewish.
You know something? Let's think about this. Do the Democrats have a Bill Clinton anymore?
Josh
What I mean,
Shapiro, Jared Polis,
Jared Polis, maybe. I mean,
governor
someone
of
who,
Colorado.
yeah, it's funny because I was at a meeting earlier this week in which there was the discussion as to whether or not Jared Polis really is the centrist that Jared Polis.
Well, he used to be.
Yeah,
He certainly used to be. I mean, in fact, years ago, about a decade ago, I worked with his office when he was in Congress on small business and entrepreneurial issues. He was very much a free market, let startup firms succeed, and
and then
where
we'll
he is
tax the hell out.
today. But where he is today might be different. But
Yeah,
this happens. So Josh Shapiro, again, moderate governor, Democrat from Pennsylvania, was all about school choice.
right.
And then there was a very moderate school choice proposal in the state of Pennsylvania that he killed.
Yes. And
So
and this I guess my point is that in order to learn from these mistakes, the Democrats need to have some kind of the concept of 1992 was the new Democrat, right?
yeah.
What does it mean to be the new Democrat? And you had essentially a governor from the deep South and a senator from the mid South
Yeah.
Banding together to sort of forge a new path forward. And then, of course, they were forced into a compromise with a Republican Congress,
All of
in.
those, it's interesting. We don't hear about this. You and I love history.
Mhm.
There really was this transition. Again, there's that word
Yeah.
of Reagan Democrats, where my parents voted for Kennedy
Yes.
in the early '60s, and then they voted for, and I'm sure they voted for Carter in '76, and they voted for Reagan and Republicans thereafter.
Yes.
There really was this kind of ethnic Catholic transition from Democrat to Republican, the so-called Reagan Democrats. It started under Nixon, the silent majority, the hard hats, the construction workers, the ethnic workers, Irish, Italian, this sort of thing, Puerto Rican, who kind of transitioned to the Republican Party. However, it's happened again, but
Yes.
it happened without anyone noticing. But the Bill Clinton Democrats are now Republican.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it just happened with no one noticing, which is why it goes back to what we talked about, I think, in not our last show, but 2 shows ago, and that is the GOP really now, the conservative movement really now is the wide main road,
Yeah.
and the extremist groups are on the shoulder.
Well, I mean, right. I mean, this is the thing. You get the left decrying the concept of populism. And certainly we get, I'm sorry, not even just the left, but you've got the sort of the never Trump conservatives who are decrying the issue of populism. But that's the nature of populism, is you're doing things that are popular. Now, they might have some kind of a free market limited government bent. And of course, when the anti-populism party is so far out of the mainstream of American society, it makes the populism, certainly more conservative in
which
contrast.
which again transitions us
Yes.
into Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. I
Right?
wasn't even intending a segue, but you're absolutely
Right, but
correct
but
there.
and the fact of the matter is, you and I talked. I think I called you last night or this morning. The Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Again, a bit of a shock that he's appointed at HHS, but he really is the consequence of the public health entities, HHS, CDC, NIH, CMS. Uh, he is the consequence of the pseudoscience that was pushed during COVID.
Yes.
The mask mandates. Let's just be clear here. Cloth masks did not stop the spread of COVID. The vaccine mandates. Uh, Vaccines, like all other medicines, will have a certain failure rate.
Yeah.
And telling us that getting a vaccine will keep us 100% safe was a lie. It was an unnecessary lie. It was an unforced error. The pseudoscience of closing down schools, the pseudoscience of closing down small businesses and restaurants, the pseudoscience of forcing vaccines on children, the pseudoscience of school closures. They upended our culture, they upended our economy, they upended our religious liberty. You couldn't go to church, you could not see your loved ones in the
Yeah.
hospital. They completely and they completely um, betrayed the American people.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been in 4 years, there's never been a moment of reckoning.
Right. Right.
Robert F. Kennedy is the reckoning.
Well, and it's interesting, Jerry. I'm sorry. I was reading this piece because I wanted to refamiliarize myself with it. Marion Mass, who you've met, she's
Sure, Doctor. Yeah, I know Dr. Mass.
Dr. Marion Mass, Practicing Physicians of America. She's a doctor up in Pennsylvania. She retweeted this piece that she wrote in 2022 about the reforming of the CPT codes, which is the coding system that is used for medical billing. Let me pull this up. So she wrote this in 2022. When a physician or non-physician provider treats a patient, the patient's conditions and treatments are then communicated to insurers using the language of the current procedural technology coding system, the first edition of which was used in 1966, produced in 1966 by the AMA. And then there's a deal with them. And so essentially, talking about this issue of if RFK Jr. might sort of reform how that system works and how that, how that relationship deals with it.
again, but that's more in the weeds, right? There's lots of
But this is
reform
the no,
necessary.
but this is my point in all of this is that, and this gets into what you've been talking about keeping your powder dry.
Yeah,
There are things that need to be done in the weeds that the left certainly hasn't been interested in doing, certainly upsetting the apple cart. When we're talking about disruption, dealing with these thorny problems, this is important stuff. So whether it's dealing with these things at RFK Jr. dealing with these things at HHS generally, or Dr. Oz dealing with the issues of Medicare and Medicaid and reimbursements and how Obamacare has skewed the measure and how we
sure.
need to get more residency programs, all of those
Well,
things.
here's my view on this, right? I mean, just broadly speaking, HHS, which is Health and Human Services,
Yeah,
which is the massive government entity that NIH and CDC and CMS
right,
come under, right? And so the department, the HHS, uh, demonstrated its massive incompetence during COVID, the massive groupthink during COVID. It's in desperate need of reform,
right. And the
and
politicization
that's
of science, Jerry. I mean,
and
yeah,
the weaponization of a pandemic.
right,
We abandoned long-standing, decades-old protocols for pandemic response. Why? Because they wanted to nail Donald
right,
Trump.
right.
So my point is, this is why he's there. But you just said something about Dr. Oz going to
CMS.
CMS, which is the governing entity over Medicaid and Medicare,
Yeah.
and people are outraged. Patient organizations in D.C. are outraged because a TV star, never mind that he's a surgeon,
Surgeon.
that he was a professor of medicine and surgery at Columbia. Never mind his really impressive, bona fides. But
Yeah, Jerry, remember,
regardless,
once you go on TV and you
that's
become a
it.
celebrity,
That's
so Neil deGrasse Tyson should never be anywhere near public policy
It's very
whatsoever.
good.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But the point is that they're so upset that he's going to undo Medicare and Medicare.
Time
But
out.
where were these people over the last couple of years where the Biden
Yes.
administration has devastated and
Right.
stole from Medicare in order to pay for green energy
Right.
subsidies and
Which
green
is a
energy
perfect subsidy into
boondoggles?
the fact, Jerry, that these are the same folks who essentially were, I was going to use a phrase, hero worshiping, bowing down,
Yeah,
prostrating themselves in front of,
candles to Fauci.
no, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh my goodness.
Right. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about this, right? I mean, every time Bill Nye the Science Guy goes up to Capitol Hill to hector members of Congress about climate change, oh my God, it's Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's like, oh, this guy might as well be Captain Planet and the Planeteers, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
and so to then turn around and say, well, we're going to listen to Bill Nye the Science Guy because we agree with him and because
Right.
he's promoting this, but we're going to, dismiss Dr. Oz because he happened to be on TV for a while, or
You know,
Pete
it-
Hegseth or what have you.
the response from the kind of DC New York corridor of media and politicos and consultants is such that they are alarmed, right? You see these
Yes.
words, they're
Alarmed.
alarmed.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, where were you? Like again, you mentioned Pete Hegseth.
Right.
Pete Hegseth has this old charge being brought up again. It's a he said, she said. Should he have had sex with a married woman? Of course not.
Right.
It's become rape and it's Me Too again. And the fact of the matter is, these smears don't work anymore
Right.
because they tried it with Trump. They lied about Trump and rape and this sort of thing. They lied about Kavanaugh. And I mean, the most disgusting charges
Right.
of him running trains on women with his buddies and all this really
I don't know what that
grotesque.
means, and I don't want you to explain it to me.
All right, but the point is that they've already done their worst, and it's failed.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
but that's number one. Number two is you're so alarmed. Why weren't you alarmed when we were lying to the American people about COVID treatments,
Why
about
weren't you
school
alarmed?
lockdowns.
Why have you been consistently denying that there have been any sociological impacts on kids
We
as
have
a
data
result
and
of being
science
off dead?
that
Right,
tell us this.
right.
There are studies that
Yeah,
show us that adolescents who went through COVID during and shut down from school, their brains have
yeah.
developed as if they were physically abused.
Right,
An abuse victim and a adolescent who went through COVID lockdowns have the same kind of brain development.
right.
We have the science. But this is the thing. It's not just HHS. It's also DOJ.
Yeah.
That's why Pam Bondi is needed. It's also, again, they're alarmed at Pete Hegseth. Where were you? Where were you when we were not meeting our recruitment numbers?
Right.
When American kids don't want to go to the academies?
Where were you when we were suggesting that we should take major pieces of military equipment and electrify them so that they can only go, X
Right.
number of miles
So
before they need to be
all of
recharged
a
for 8 hours?
sudden, they care about defense. They care about
Right.
the border. They care about health. They care about justice. Where have you been?
No,
We
that's
we have we have been governed by a senile old man
yeah.
who has brought America on the cusp of World War III, has opened our borders and invited in 20 million criminal aliens, who has put the economy such that inflation has destroyed people's lives. They shut down the economy during COVID. They weaponized law enforcement. They weaponized the pandemic.
Nearly doubled the size of the regulatory state
Oh
in
my,
costs alone. And that, then you get into the issues of what that means in terms of the actual body of rules that are
well,
out there that can be
yes.
used against people. That's the other part of it, right? It's not just rules. We talk about, right? This gets into exactly what we're talking about in terms of the why, Jerry. The why is the vehicle to power, right? They want power.
So,
And
so
why do they want
they're
power?
destroying America to save America.
Right. It's a matter of well, they're destroying the principles, right? And that's of course been over the
Right.
last 50 years. By
It
the
has
way,
accelerated.
trading some great messages with morning with a buddy of mine who was on the 250th anniversary committee, just sort of talking about how we might better inform people of what's happening in the 250th anniversary, because I'm still very excited about this. But that's just it. It's we know better than you, right? We know better than you, so we're going to tell you what to do. B, we're going to make these choices for you. And C, right, if you run afoul of us, and Jerry, since we brought the show back, we have not mentioned Henry Silverglade's 3 felonies a day once. So we're
Right.
laying down on the job. And if you run afoul of us, we are going to find a way to use any one of these myriad regulations against you, and weaponize that against you.
Listen,
Hear me
bring it
now
home.
and believe me later. Sorry,
Bring
go
it
ahead.
home. It's been 8 weeks since Hurricane Helene
Yeah,
devastated parts of North Carolina, especially the Highlands,
yeah,
right? People talk about
the
how
mountains.
the mountains, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's been 8 weeks, and there are too many North Carolinians today without sewer, without water, without electricity. The winter's coming. They're living in tents.
yeah,
Where is FEMA? Where is the federal government? This is 8 weeks.
yeah.
My goodness. We had a flyover of the Superdome in New Orleans during Katrina,
Right.
and George W. Bush is still labeled a racist, but it was hours he was responding. It is
Yeah.
8 weeks later, and there are Americans who are living in tents
Yeah.
without sewer, water, or power. And moreover, whatever happened to the scandal of if they have a Trump sign or a Trump flag, skip over them?
Well, I mean, that's been
That's
playing on.
gone.
No. It's been playing on the media this week. I mean,
I haven't seen anything.
no, they just had the director of FEMA up on Capitol Hill on Monday or Tuesday of this week to
All
to
right.
to answer
Well,
questions about this.
I
There's a really
challenge I,
great.
I challenge our viewers to go to ABC, NBC, CBS,
Oh,
CNN, the New York
time out for a
Times, the
second.
Washington Post.
Listen, that I have no doubt about
All right.
that. You're talking about where it is. I mean, the Republicans are still trying to peel this back. Where's the major media coverage? You're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Again,
Which goes to the cliche,
right,
Andrew. The Republicans might be having another one of their hearings.
right.
These hearings don't go anywhere
Oh my
if
God.
no one knows about them.
Listen, I had a situation. I could tell the story. We're seeing my in-laws the other day, and they talked about doing a walk. They do these walks and having a tree fall on the path behind them. And I asked them, well, if you
As they were
hadn't been,
walking,
yeah, as they were walking, and I said, well, if
wow.
you hadn't been there, do you think it would have made a sound? And they laughed because it's the old. But this is what Jerry's talking about. This is the political version of the old Zen koan. If a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Which is have you ever heard that? Were you not going for that, Jerry? And I'm just
No, I
not
was. Of
confusing.
course, I was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. The noise that is made here. But I think we've moved on. We didn't sort of cover this issue of the reaction to circle back to the beginning part of it, the Gaetz issue. You
Gates,
know,
Matt
the
Gates.
yeah, the one thing that Jerry and I both talked about yesterday was whether or not the culling of the gazelle by the leopards, taking down Matt Gaetz, is that going to spur, do the Democrats now smell blood in the water? And I think the answer is they probably do. But if we're going to get more nominees like Pam Bondi, I don't think it matters as much. And I
Well,
think that gets into the rope-a-dope here.
and also here's the thing, Andrew. You're 100% correct. It absolutely did. Because I said to you, like, why would he
Right?
withdraw? He could at least
Blood in the water.
he could draw their fire. But the brilliance is that he didn't wait a day
Right.
or 3 days or a week or a month.
He was
He
ready.
he nominated Pam Bondi
Right.
immediately, and so therefore they didn't have time.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, so and again, this goes back to what you and I talked about in 2016 when I was receiving criticism for hanging on to issues too long.
Yeah.
And I would make the case, well, we can't just move on.
Right.
We have to respond immediately. They lie, we respond, or we have to be more on the offensive, on the front of our feet, so not the back, not on our
Not on our
heels.
heels. Yeah.
And I think that's something that Trump has learned.
No, I
I
think
think
so.
I think Trump was ready. I mean, he fired a shot. Matt Gaetz, it missed its target. Boom, second shot already in the chamber. Boom,
Yes.
and here
Right.
we
And
go.
and listen, I would be happy with Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, but we now know that the bench is very deep. I can name a bunch of other folks that I would like
Yeah.
that I could see there. Folks that I could see. We actually didn't get into somebody else in terms of, as we're talking about healthcare stuff. Marty Makary is a potential FDA
FDA would be
administrator.
wonderful, and also Jay Bhattacharya
Yeah.
would be at NIH. I mean, uh, potentially Trump is putting together. I know the left, and I know that the medical establishment in D.C., the New York D.C. corridor, are gonna vomit in their mouth over this statement. But the fact of the matter is, he's put together a pretty good team.
Yeah.
He's put
Right.
together. He's put together an all-star team.
Yes.
Now, mind you, all-star teams don't always play well together. Like we've had like the basketball players going to
Sure.
Europe and almost being beat by some team at
Right.
Eastern Europe. So all-star teams don't always interact well together. But on its face, if you have Kennedy at HHS, Oz at CMS, Bhattacharya at NIH, Marty Makary at FDA, we're talking about very.
And at the same time, because we haven't even talked about this, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy working together to head up this DOGE, the Department of
DOGE, yeah.
Government Efficiency. I just did a podcast about this. So as all of this
Oh,
other stuff is going on, you've
yes.
got them sort of engaged in the comprehensive review. This is very important.
It is. And again, this is also where they're panicking because Elizabeth Warren, of all people, I don't understand, as a side note, I don't understand why anyone takes her seriously because she lied for decades about her ethnicity. The party is the party of identity politics.
Right.
She lied about being a Native American, Indigenous American, in order to get a leg up, so to speak, in her career. She benefited from the lie. She knew it was a lie, because there was never any record, it was always well, we have high cheekbones, kind of
Yeah,
the racist
right,
response.
sure.
Elvis Presley must have been part Indian because he had high cheekbones. It's racist, right? But she said this week, and again, in almost like a untethered from reality moment, she was asked by a news reporter, "What do you make of this
Doge.
Doge? Sorry,
Yeah.
Doge,
Dogecoin.
Doge. I'm gonna have trouble with this for 4 years.
Yeah.
Doge.
No.
What do you make of it? And this idea of cutting trillions of dollars, initially 2 trillion, and she was like, "How could they do this when at the same time they're going to pay for it by stealing Social Security from Americans?"
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, how does she get away with saying that Musk is going to steal Social Security away from Americans? What proposal is out there to do anything to harm recipients of Social Security? There isn't any
Right.
proposal. So again, they're untethered.
But
They are just
it's also, here's the reality. Again, it gets into the issue of power. Because what happened last spring? Last spring, the Supreme Court, in a decision called Loper Bright, the Supreme Court said that no, in point of fact, agencies should not have extended deference to engage in whatever crazy interpretations of the law that they want, that it has to be rooted in some kind of statutory decision made by Congress. And what does Elizabeth Warren do? Well, Elizabeth Warren says, well, forget that. Forget what the Supreme Court has said here. I'm going to put out a bill called the Stop Corporate Capture Act, which says that even if Congress overrules something that an agency does, we're going to put this power back in the agencies to have that deference, right? Congress doesn't do its job in terms of being specific in statutes. We want this expansive interpretive power to be held in the agencies. And yet somehow Donald Trump is the threat to democracy,
right.
right? The conservatives are the
Well,
threat to democracy.
it betrays two
Right,
things, right, Andrew? One is what you just laid out, and that is Trump wants the legislature to legislate. He wants the
right.
executive branch to execute. He wants the judiciary branch to be involved
To
in
interpret, be the referee.
exactly right. And they don't want that. They
No,
want power. They want power now. They want it now. They want it right now. And if you're in the way, you're a Hitler, you are a racist, you are whatever you are, right?
which is the
You're
grand irony.
you're
Yes,
trying to kill babies and kids and push old people off a cliff. But it also betrays uh, their misunderstanding of how things. Oh no, it also betrays their understanding rather of they know they control the deep state.
right. Yes,
And so this is why a Pam Bondi is such a threat. This is why a Hegseth. This is why even a Kennedy are such a threat. It's not so much what they might do to Medicare. It's that
yes,
they have embedded in these agencies ideologues.
right.
And so we have Trump over the next 2 years is going to like trying to get a tick out of your dog's snout.
Right.
They're
Trump
going to
is
try
not
to
only going to get the tweezers in there to pull it out, but he's going to make sure that you get the strongest antibiotics out there to fight
Yeah.
off the
And
Lyme
he only has
disease.
2 years to do it.
Yes.
And
Right.
but what bothers me about the left is, I mean, they win all the time, which bothers me, but also nothing ever boomerangs back at them.
You know, but time out for a second, because this is a theme that you and I have had in, again, this is episode 89. And of course, we had all of the Langercast episodes beforehand. Because you have been, and I don't mean this in a bad way, you are a skeptic. I was going to say Eeyorish, but we talk about the issue of winning and how we're losing battles everywhere. Do you think that the tide has turned with this election?
You know what? This is a
I don't
very
want you to get
important.
happy. I don't want you to get, I know
No, no,
you
no,
don't,
no,
you don't
no,
have to get
no, no,
happy, but I
no.
just want to know if there's a little bit of optimism.
I've been really wrapping my head around this very question. Um, Let me just make a quick point.
Yes.
The left wants to get rid of the filibuster. They want to pack the court. They want the agencies to have authority, final
They want to
authority
get rid of the
over.
Electoral College.
They want to get rid of the Electoral College. Now, though, they're in the minority, so they need to filibuster.
Yes.
They're in the minority, so they don't want to pack the court because Trump will get 3 more picks.
Right.
They're in the minority, so they don't want this power to be concentrated in the hands of a Trump guy. Republicans don't play ball like them. If I were the Republicans, I don't answer your question. I apologize.
Please.
But if I were the Republicans, I would put up the first bill, Senate Bill number 1, House Bill number 1, the 13 districts, 13 Judicial Nominee Act. There are 13 federal district courts. So they should increase the size of the Supreme Court to 13. Wait,
Okay.
I'd put that bill up
Yeah.
and I would see how many Democrats vote for it. And then I would pull it to show
Sure.
their hypocrisy, to show their hypocrisy.
Right.
I'd
that's
put it up and every Republican votes no.
Yeah.
And then you let the Democrats, 47 in the Senate, let them vote yes, but they won't vote yes.
No.
And
That's exactly it.
just to show the hypocrisy.
I was going to make a
right?
district. I was going to make a District 13
But
show. As
but you
long
see-
as it's not a
but-
bill where we
get-
divide America into 13 different districts and we have to send somebody to the Capitol, every
But
year to.
I think I forget if it's 13 districts or 12 districts. I forget. But the point is
But
that
have the Supreme Court reflect the number of appellate courts that are out there, and I
Yes,
think you
right.
add to it, right? You have the circuits and the appellate courts,
Right.
But then you also have the federal circuit, and
Right.
you have to
But
add that to it.
if I were the Senate, I'd put that bill up for a vote, and I would tell 5 senators ours vote yes initially.
Isn't that interesting, Jerry? I wonder if we could
Show the
have
hypocrisy.
but just listen, I'm sorry, you've raised a really interesting question. I wonder if anybody has written about sort of done the thought processes about changing the way that we nominate Supreme Court justices so that they do come out of the circuits, right? You have to have, well, I guess we don't want somebody who necessarily has come out of a circuit court.
Right.
But nevertheless, I would like to read that law review article that's out there. Jerry, listen, because we're
No, we can't wrap up yet.
No, okay.
I just want to reiterate.
Can you talk to me about the Warriors?
I want the Republicans to put this bill up and have a handful of Republicans vote yes initially.
Oh, yeah.
See what the Democrats do, and then pull back the Republican votes, and then pull the bill.
Right.
Because again, I think that's warfare. That's political
Yes.
warfare. Show their hypocrisy, number one. But you asked the question I want to answer.
Yes, I did. That was.
Am I optimistic? Look, Donald Trump's popular vote is shrinking. He was at 50.4%. He's now at like 49.8% to her. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's going to be about a 2 million margin popular vote. That's the thinnest popular vote victory in American history. Number one. Number two, we still lost. Republicans lost Wisconsin. They lost Michigan. They lost Arizona. They lost Nevada. Those were winnable states that we lost. We also have Mitch McConnell in power. We have Romney too as the freshman senator from Utah. We still have Alvin Bragg. We still have what's happening with trying the Daniel Pennies and going after law-abiding citizens who defend their neighbors and letting rapists and murderers free. That's still happening. And it's only by a razor thin margin, popular vote wise, that we won. So I think we have 2 years, Andrew. I'm optimistic.
I'm sorry. I'm going back because hold on. I'm trying to find the final electoral map.
Yeah, his margin of victory, popular vote, is now under 50%.
But Jerry, wait, we won. Here's the thing: we won Wisconsin and we won Michigan.
No, but that's what scares me. We won Michigan.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you just said that we didn't. So
no, we didn't. No, we didn't win. We won. Trump won.
Yes,
but we lost the Senate races.
Oh, I see. Okay, I was confused. Yes,
they were winnable. Wisconsin was winnable. Michigan was winnable. Nevada was winnable. Trump won Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. But we lost. But they voted for Trump but then bullet voted and
Right.
for the Democratic senator. That worries me.
You're out of focus, Jerry.
Oh.
Here, lean back, lean forward. All right, I don't know. All right, but that worries
But
you. But
that worries me.
Nevertheless, you came back there. Nevertheless, are you a little bit more optimistic about life than you have been in the past?
I'm optimistic.
You're cautiously optimistic.
I'm cautiously
Okay.
optimistic, but I also know there's a window.
Right.
2
Listen, this
years.
gets into this issue of the stupid party versus the evil party. As
Listen,
we as we've
you
talked
saw
about.
this week, Republicans are trying to pass this legislation to get DEI madness out of the
Yeah.
different federal agencies. And the left, Representative Presley,
Yeah.
she's one of the squad
One of
members
the
of the
squad.
Democratic
Yes,
Party,
Ayanna Presley.
went off and said to the member of her colleague, "Get Martin Luther King Jr.'s name out of your mouth."
Sure. Yes.
So the left, they're done. They
Got it.
they're not persuadable anymore.
Well, I just before you
There's a
go,
significant segment of our population that are just religious zealots about politics.
can we because we are talking about transitions and transitioning here.
Yes.
There's a meme that's been out this week that has just gotten under my skin. And it's a statement of if you've ever flown on an airplane and used a unisex bathroom and haven't been harmed by it, why do you care about who goes into your bathroom? And it's like, there are times when I've wanted to
It's so
respond to this
dishonest.
nonsense. It is
So
fundamentally dishonest here, right? Because at the same time, if I go into an airplane, bathroom, I don't leave the door unlocked, and I'm not expected to have somebody come in there while I'm in there with me, or any other kind of single.
Or you
solo
don't walk
bathroom.
in on a 5-year-old girl using the
Right.
bathroom.
Right, absolutely.
Which I'm glad you mentioned this because
Yeah, thank you.
this trans woman, i.e., man,
Yes.
representative from Delaware, gave a press conference earlier this week in response to Nancy Mace's bathroom resolution
Right.
in the House, where women's spaces are reserved for women. That is now this is why I can't
Right,
say
this
I'm
is-
optimistic. This is now controversial.
Well, no, it's only controversial with the left. I guess that's my point. Is I think for the vast
Yeah, but-
majority of Americans,
I know, but
Nancy
but-
Mace's position is not
Yes.
controversial.
Yeah, but Andrew, a couple things, right? Number
Yeah.
one, it's what is it? It's the Overton window.
Yes.
The left keeps on bringing these things that were once out there, crazy. They keep on bringing them closer and closer to the middle and to the mainstream.
But that's why I'm saying, I think that Trump's election, and I think a lot of folks are not talking about the issue of trans politics and how this is all played into this. This is one of those issues that resonated with everyday Americans, right? All of those moms who the left thought were going to come out and vote on abortion, instead were much, much more
Right, it's
concerned
true.
about their kids, their daughters, having to compete against.
I do want to say this, and you can end this whenever you want. I know time is precious.
All right,
but
we'll see you later. No.
But the fact of the matter is, again, this man from Delaware who identifies as a woman, dresses as a woman.
Yes.
She said this week that it was the GOP, it was the Republicans, conservatives who made transgender issues an issue. And I hate that's like the meme that you brought up.
Right.
No, I would rather not talk about this.
100%.
I would rather you go live your life in quiet dignity, live how you want to live, call yourself what you want to call yourself, dress as you want to dress, but it doesn't give you the right to invade the private spaces.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
again, so I draw the line when you want to bring your 9-inch cock into the girls' room.
Sorry, Geraldine.
Where my daughter is getting ready for cheerleading practice.
100%. Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry.
That's exactly right.
I know that was
But
profane,
also,
but
I
that's
mean,
what it is.
Right. I mean, also, fundamentally, if my daughter is running track, if she's an 800-meter runner, she should not have to compete against some 16-year-old boy.
Right. You remember what was it, the comedian Seth Green?
Yeah.
Remember? All right, so he did a bit once.
Seth Green or Tom Green?
Oh, Tom
Seth Green is the
Tom
actor.
Green. The guy was married to
Drew Barrymore. That's Tom
Yes,
Green.
all right.
He only
Tom
has
Green.
one testicle.
All right, so Tom Green did a bit once. I forget if this was on it must have been a movie bit.
It
I
might have
forget.
been his Canadian access, his public access
All right,
TV show.
so
but yes,
he's in a
he did the one
factory.
movie.
He's in a factory.
Freddie got fingered.
He's in a factory. Goodness gracious. And he has
Absolutely.
a big roll, a big thing of like salami.
Yes.
It's huge. And he puts it between his legs. And he gets on the say it for me, the conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt. And he's holding it and saying something like, get out of my way. And as he's doing it, he's hitting all these women in the face with it.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
It's one thing to live your life in quiet dignity and live in freedom in a free culture. If you want to live as a trans person, that's your business.
Right.
But again, I want to say this. When Riley Gaines said that she would be in the locker room, sitting there in the locker room, and literally she'd look up and there was a penis
Yes.
3 feet from her face.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is inappropriate.
100%.
And so the fact is that yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
No, of course.
But they're the ones who are insisting on it.
Yes.
Not
Right.
me.
This would not be an issue were it not they're the ones fighting for it, right? If we just went down this road and sort of went through and engaged in a little bit of common sense with these things, because again, it comes back to the common sense issue.
To say the least. I have to say this one last thing.
Please.
So you have all these because we're talking about HHS and why, in my view, Kennedy's response to COVID policies, pseudoscience policies. So that the Biden administration let in all these illegal criminal aliens, and none of them were required to have COVID vaccines, right?
Right. Yes.
So I mentioned Riley Gaines. Her husband is an immigrant from Great Britain, met in college. He was all set after 8 years to get his citizenship.
Yeah.
Right. He did it the right way.
Sure.
So there's attorneys and there's all kinds of bureaucratic hoopla to go through. He did it.
Yeah.
And he's about to get his citizenship, but he doesn't have a COVID vax. He was denied.
Wow.
He was denied citizenship.
Wow.
So someone who came in here and over the process of years did everything right and legal and costly to become an American citizen,
Sure.
only to be denied because of the pseudoscience. There is no vac. He doesn't have a vax.
Sure.
He doesn't have a vax vaccine. Yet we've let in literally millions of criminal aliens with no. Why he could have just come in illegally.
Right. Of course. It's what we call in public policy parlance the perverse disincentives to doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so many public policies have these things. And that's part of what this administration is going to be dealing with, part of the what DOGE is going to be dealing with. But we hope that we can get this rectified. Jerry, you're on Sunday, aren't you?
I'm on Sunday, and then I'm going to be on next Saturday and Sunday. So
Wow.
the week I'm going to have, it's going to be a full on Jerry weekend at WBAL.
You're on 7 to 10 next Saturday after Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving, 7 to 10 on Saturday, and then of course Jerry Rogers show.
Well,
7 to 10 on Sunday.
if they could only find somebody who would be willing to stick with that 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturday job, Jerry. I don't know what's going on over there.
I tell you, getting up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
And getting over to Baltimore.
Listen, I don't want you to go down this road and talk about this. Believe me, I understand. I understand completely. Listen, I've got a new episode of the Federal Newswire dropping on Monday. Next Monday's episode, I talk with Tony Abood from the Vaping Association about that issue and things that are happening there. So go and check that out. Jerry, what do you want people to do?
Find the truth, plant your feet, stand firm. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving.
God bless. Well,
no, we'll do one. We'll do one before Thanksgiving.
We're gonna do a Thanksgiving show next week. Have a great week, everybody. Have a great weekend. Have fun and stay safe.